one time I started my business and I got it right and I've been doing fine. Does that make you an entrepreneur? Sure. Right. But an entrepreneur usually has a history of failures and successes behind them, where they've tried multiple things. So I would argue that probably like 80 to 90% of the people that are entrepreneurs, once they get a business that's running and it's running perfectly, if they have a good COO that's keeping them from setting fires, they're going to have other ideas that they want to go try. And so they're going to start their next business. Oh my gosh, how many of us would love to start a new business knowing that our primary business not only is being taken care of, but it's got good cash flow, good distribution, and it's running itself. And so you have this passive revenue stream that's coming to you that then you're starting your next venture because you built this really cool engine. You already know what to do for the next business. So I'm going to tell you, your next business, you're probably going to get it running better and faster and more profitable in a shorter order because you've already done it.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where SaaS sales is the ultimate endurance sport. Qualify hard, pitch smart, and follow up like your ARR depends on it, because it does. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I will B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's all about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Do you ever feel like your business can't breathe unless you're in the room? Founders, we wear a lot of hats, but when every decision, problem, and process runs through us, growth stalls and burnout is right around the corner. Truth is, most successful companies aren't the ones built around a brilliant founder. They're the ones that are built on brilliant processes, brilliant operations. They can thrive without the founder in the middle of everything, even the chaos, even the storm. In this episode, we're unpacking the system strategies and mindset shifts that transform a founder-reliant business into a self-sustaining machine. This is one of the things that we help founders with all the time as well. You'll hear how to identify when you've become the bottleneck. Yeah, it's happening way sooner than you think. It happens to all of us. How to delegate without losing control, and why building parallel systems is the key to running lean and scaling smart. We'll also dive into exit readiness, not just for founders who are looking to sell, but for anyone who wants to build a business that's valuable, resilient, and ready for anything. And my favorite word, future proof. From creating an operations Bible to empowering your team to solve problems without you. This conversation is packed with practical advice that'll boost both your sanity and your valuation. If you're ready to stop being the glue holding everything together and start being the strategic leader your business needs, this one's for you. Let's crack it open. Our founder on Tuesday was Lance Thrailkill, CEO of All Metals Fabricating and co-founder of Printed Technologies. Lance walked us through the future of construction, from robotics on the factory floor, which I think is fascinating, to 3D printed homes, which is mind-blowing. Lance is leading the charge in innovation, automation, and solving the affordable housing crisis one concrete layer at a time. And he's doing it through robotics, AI, augmented reality, and manufacturing. So cool. Our expert guest last week was Tammy Reese, creator of the Learn to Lead framework. Tammy shared practical strategies for empowering teams and scaling up leadership. Now, Tammy helps executives at global brands like Microsoft and Walmart grow their influence without burning out. And she's helping founders like you and me become better leaders from today to infinity and beyond. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and check them out. Such good stuff. My guest today is Joshua Monge, fractional COO, entrepreneur, and systems optimizer. Joshua helps growth stage companies streamline operations, map and document processes, and build businesses that don't require the founder to wear every hat in the business. With deep expertise across food, beverage, finance, manufacturing, and economic development, Joshua is the strategic partner founders call when they're ready to scale, exit, or maybe finally take a vacation. Whether you're struggling to delegate buried in undocumented workflows, been there, or planning for an acquisition, Joshua brings operational clarity to the chaos. Welcome, Joshua Monge. Hey, Joshua, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Tell me a little bit about the role of a fractional COO. What does a day in the life look like? What do fractional COOs do?
Oh my gosh. That is like a loaded question. Yeah, our role is generally to help manage the day to day of the business. So, usually, CEOs, you get to a place where you're building it, you're the founder, you're running everything. And then ideally, you get to a place where you have a number two, or in some case, a number one. That
Sure.
basically is the one that knows where everything is, knows all the passwords, where the keys are, all the processes, who's doing what. And that's the person that's running the day to day piece. So, that's the COO kind of in general. And then fractional COO, we are the ones that you can hire on your path to getting there. So maybe you're a founder that you're doing everything and you're getting to a place where you need to start trusting people and start building that out. You've hired some of the frontline, lower level positions, but you need someone on a strategic level that's understands strategy and implementation, and then how to manage all of that complexity. And so you aren't necessarily ready for a full time person, but you are needing to build some building blocks or get some projects underway. And so hiring a fractional COO will come in and we'll look and say, oh, okay, we see these little components. These are things that you want to get done, but you don't necessarily have the skills or insight to implement, or you can't level up somebody. So let me come in and let me build you these components. And so these become foundational elements that help build that foundation for your business that then will position you for growth, that growth phase that you really want to get into, where everybody knows what they're doing and everything's humming along. And you, as the CEO, are the business owner slash absentee owner slash visionary. And so you're not caught up in the day to day kind of components of the business.
So valuable. And I really underestimated the value of having a strong COO. And it's one of those things that was nebulous of, I don't know, do we need one? Do we not? And then you get one and you're like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Well, it's because
I mean, seriously.
you understand and value your time, and you realize, oh, I had this really cool idea. Oh, nobody's going to do it exactly the way I'm going to do it, but I can hire people that can get it done, and it
Yeah.
might look a little different, but I didn't really care anyway. Like when you boil down, right? Is the work getting done? Great. Does it getting done the way you want? If you're flexible on that, then that's great. You can hire people to take care of
Yep.
that. That's cool.
Yeah. And it really, just from my perspective, helped shift out of firefighting mode all the time. And is that something that you see a lot in businesses of really coming into a fractional role and then helping businesses transition out of that?
Oh, definitely. It's funny because one of the analogies that I use is people come to me when the bus is on fire and the wheels are coming off. And then someone's, hey, you might need some help. And helping to put the fires out and get the wheels on the bus and get it back on the road, or performing in a better way. That's my goal. And it's interesting because with CEOs, especially when you're a founder and just getting started, you're used to always looking for fires and trying to put those out. And
Yeah.
once we get out of firefighting mode, then all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm not fighting fires. What is it that I'm doing? And you're supposed to be the visionary, casting the vision for where we're going with this thing. And so occasionally they're like, let me just grab some gas and some matches. And I'll just, no, stop. You
Yeah.
you put some of the fires you created. Yes, some of the fires were created because of the complexity of the system. Fine, but firefighting, no. We're going to take that off your plate. That's not going to be your thing anymore. It's a little bit of a challenge to transition people because they feel like if they don't have their hands on everything and they're not seeing every part of the machine and they're not calculating and touching everything, then something will break. And when it breaks, they're the only one that can fix it. The reality is, yes, but you can build systems though that will have little indicator lights that will have other people taking care of tasks and responsibilities and reporting up to you. So then, oh, everything's being taken care of and being dealt with. And so building that system, that's what we like to do.
Yeah. So good. And I think, yeah, I can really relate to that feeling, and probably a lot of the listeners can as well. You're really wanting to have my hands in everything
Yeah.
and learning to back off and learning that it actually a lot of times runs better when I don't have my hands in everything because I can easily become a bottleneck or I can become the one that's causing the problems and creating more strain on the operations and the systems than just taking a step back and letting them run.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, the smile on your face when you talked about hiring an operations person and you understood what they did, like you had a big old smile on your face.
Yes.
That's what I'm going for as a fractional CEO. I want to see a CEO smile and be like, oh, thank God I hired you. Thank God you're creating value. Thank God these things are being taken care of. And there's just that big
Yes.
smile. That's Yeah, there's a hiring criteria. If you're going to hire someone that's going to do this, they should make you smile and make you feel relieved. So I'm glad that you've experienced that.
Yes, yes. What do you think, just from an operational standpoint, what are the biggest signs that a company's operations are being held back by a founder or CEO that is too hands-on or too involved?
Yeah, easy. Take 2 weeks off and then see what happens. how many
Yeah.
how many phone calls are you going to get? How many emails? How much, like, all of a sudden, or if that thought of taking 2 weeks off scares the living Jesus out of
Yep.
you, then you've got operational problems. That's the easy one. It's the ideal situation, even in smaller businesses, is that the founder is never the bottleneck for everything. And initially you are because you know everything, but you need to transfer that knowledge and you need to create systems and processes that will take care of those things. So then essentially the business can run without you. Or to put in operations terms, you have parallel systems running. So instead of only one system running because you're the only one doing it, you've actually got 3 or 4 systems running that are all running alongside at the same time that you're doing your one system. And that's where operations really exist, is getting those multiple things. Like, so I have social media posts going out, I have content created, I have my team managing tasks, I have all this stuff that's happening in my business that I'm not necessarily doing all those things, but I know they're getting done because I'm seeing reports and I'm seeing checks, I'm seeing emails. And so I have parallel things running now. Besides my time just sitting here talking with you, I'm still earning money and things are still happening.
I think that's when business gets really fun, is when, things are happening and you don't have to be involved.
Yeah.
And even when there's a crisis, yeah, I think it's a real sign of success for the team and just growth is that it's solved and I don't even hear about it until it's already resolved.
Oh,
So it's not like them running here, fix this, but hey, this happened and we fixed it and everything's all good now.
oh my gosh, you're like on level 100. Like, I have to say, that's awesome because that's definitely, sorry, let me cut that. That's awesome. That's definitely one of those things that you want to get to, is not having to always be notified of everything, but even, hey, we had this problem. Here's the solution and here's the fix. And then it's taken care of. Cool. That builds confidence in you because at least your team is then being honest with you. So you're not getting all the
Right.
good stuff. You're also getting some of the bad stuff, but you've also empowered your team to solve that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, you should sell COO services. I should just hook a little paywall to you, or like some sort of referral connection thing here. You talk about how awesome it is.
Oh, without a doubt. A lot of companies, they'll get stuck, say between 3 and 5 million a lot of times in revenue. And a lot of times it is operational bottlenecks. And how do you deal with that? Do you see that happen? And how do you help them break through that ceiling?
Yeah. There are opportunities to have these conversations with people at different levels and intervals. I think for SaaS companies, yeah, that makes sense. 3 to 5 million. For some, I see it at 1 million. They can't get over 1 million because there's just,
Sure.
they've got people and they have technology, but they don't have the processes or systems, because as you add more components, those interrelationships, that has to be managed. And that's where having an operations person come in and say, hey, all these systems are plugged in, working disparately. Like, how do we hook them all together and connect them and create a flow where things can start here and work through everything? Someone needs to manage that complexity. And yeah, there's always a point where you can hire as many people as you want to try to get things done, but then there needs to be something that kind of dictates how that's all coordinated and operates together. And I think that's where the operations comes in. So what I do is, especially if it's very people centric, I try to start documenting, okay, this is how Bob does it, this is how Joe does it, and Mary does it, and everything else. Okay, so we document that because those people maybe are the customer service, or are the salesperson, or are bookkeeping. And so what I do is I'll document their roles and I'll try to break them down into roles that are absent of the person. Okay, cool. You do 6 things. You realize you're wearing 7 hats. Let's get those job descriptions in for each of those roles that you play. And then let's reevaluate this. Like, why are you doing bookkeeping if you're the salesperson? Oh, because they needed help and I took that on. Okay, maybe we should reorg this and get this to someone that could actually do it and give you more time for sales. So by documenting the processes and documenting the roles that people play and trying to get those roles parsed out, that's where we get to start solving the operations problems because everyone's that's what Joe does, but does Joe do it because of the role that he has and the multiple roles that he has, or is it because Joe's the only one that knows it? Once we identify it as a role, we pull those pieces out, and then when we do an org chart and we start putting things in structures of how businesses are organized, we can start seeing gaps. And then now we're actually doing like really awesome work because we're no longer talking about individuals, but we're talking about the roles, accountabilities, and responsibilities and tasks that need to get done. And we start seeing gaps. And so one person's overloaded. It was hard for them to articulate it because they had 6 different jobs. And so everyone's like, of course you're overloaded. But nobody's doing follow up on customers, or nobody's closing it out, or nobody's doing billing because it's all sitting in that messy people multiple job kind of thing. So it sounds like a big ball of thread. Just imagine a big ball of thread with a bunch of different colors are all mixed in there. And then you've got these different piles, and then you're trying to run a business saying, okay, who's responsible for this? And it's like the red thread, but everybody's got red thread. So it's like, let's pull that out of that. Let's put that in its own little
Yeah.
ball. And so we do that.
That's a really good analogy. It's very visual and it's something that I can relate to
Okay, good. Oh, shoot.
very well.
I work on these all the time. I'm like, my brain's always like, how do I explain this as simple as possible? And it is very complex
Yeah.
and it is very difficult. But I think that's the other thing. Maybe second, kind of, if you're looking for someone, can they explain things simple enough that you guys can understand it? Not that you can't understand the complex thing, but time, energy wise, like you want someone that's going to make your job easier and make things simpler for you.
Yeah, a lot of businesses do have either completely undocumented processes, they only live in somebody's head, or at some point they documented some stuff and it's really outdated and it has never been updated. And if you looked at the documentation and how things are really done, they have very little in common. What is maybe a step by step approach to mapping and optimizing those workflows and then keeping them up to date?
Yeah, that is a tricky one. So, one, somebody has to be responsible for documentation, and somebody needs to make sure that those processes are being followed. And it just puts someone's name on it. Hey, you're in charge of SOPs, how to's, workflow, whatever you want to call it. Great. So assign somebody, and then where do those documents live? I love walking into a business and like, oh yeah, we've got SOPs. Great. Where are they? Some of them are here, and some of them are there, and some of them
Yep.
are under there. Okay, great. Let's take a look at where these different disparate places are. Let's put it all in one place. So now we've got one person in charge, and we've got one place that they all live. Now all of a sudden we can start looking at what's the inventory of processes that we have. When's the last time those have been updated? Do we have a standardization of how we file those? And that's how I would attack that. And then as far as those that are like in people's heads, yeah, that's a hard one because people are pretty squishy when it comes to what's going on in life. And so if someone gets in a car accident or wants to move
Yeah.
or whatever, all of a sudden you've got what I would say is you have intellectual property living inside that individual that if they decide to leave your organization, there goes your intellectual property. So there goes
Right.
your whole process, there goes your whole business. And it would be like part of your engine. If your transmission decided to walk away, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, no, I need that. Like you don't
Right.
want that. So document that, understand how that person operates, what they do, their tasks, and getting that down is super important. And as a growing business, at some point you've had to really let people go or you've had to replace people. You don't want to have to keep retraining them or keep having to figure out, okay, we've got a new full stack developer and they do it totally this way. So now we need to change our whole coding system to match this talent because they only do it this way.
Right.
You can do that for a short time, but after a while, like that's not going to work. You need to have standards and be like, hey, this is how we do things. This is what needs to be done. And then hire to that and bring people in that can take care of it that way.
Yeah. What do you think that the most effective way is for founders to get out of the weeds when they're the ones that have that knowledge or they're the ones that are in the way of doing and get out of the weeds and create repeatable, scalable systems that don't rely on them personally?
Yeah, that's, I've been trying to find the answer to that forever. There's a few different solutions we try. So one is they need to see the priority of setting aside time to focus on building their business. So when they're busy doing the day to day, they're running around touching all the pans and flipping all the pots and doing all. Okay, that's one way to run your business, but you realize that you're going to have to practice taking time to step out to take it. Imagine if there was a gantry above how your business runs. You need to run up to the gantry and get a vision for what's going on with all the pieces. And so what I try to do is get people at least an hour a week, just as a minimum. Start practicing stepping out and saying, okay, for an hour, I'm just going to look at how this whole thing runs and then document what I want. And I'll tell you, a lot of people are not necessarily satisfied with the business that they have because it came to them by default. And so they have this vision of what they actually want. And so if I can get them to see that and feel it, then they can sit down and go, okay, I'm going to take an hour. So they'll carve out that time and they'll start documenting things. And there is this challenge when you observe something and you really look at it and you really are thinking about it. You can't just watch, but you actually start participating. And so when they see how their business runs and they go, maybe the customer service department, they see a couple phone calls, orders being entered, and you're just there to observe, but you observe and you're like, man, I really don't like the way that this and this. And so they start fixing things right then and there,
Yeah.
which is totally fine. But I just document how it's being done and take that time to sit and observe and write things down. I think that's key. So,
Really good. We definitely, as owners, want to prepare for growth. And that's always a big thing that we're pushing toward, maybe potential exit. And structuring a business for long term success, not something that just runs today, but something, one of my favorite words, future proof,
yeah,
that's going to be around. Ready to dominate your market and skyrocket your revenue? Dive into Small Fish, Big Pond, delivering a world class business that swims circles around competitors. This book is packed with powerful marketing and leadership insights guaranteed to transform your business and operate world class. Small Fish Big Pond delivers proven strategies to sharpen your marketing message, deliver unmatched value to your clients, and guide your prospects' buying journey to one inevitable conclusion: that your company is the only solution for them. Inside, you'll find step by step frameworks and time tested growth principles to attract your ideal clients, convert them, and then turn them into your passionate brand ambassadors. Grab your copy today in print, ebook, or audio at smallfishbigpond.com or on Amazon. Plus, remember, every book sale supports charity. All profits go there. Always have, always will. So dive in and make a difference. You emphasize structuring a business for an exit isn't just looking for those to sell. And I think
right.
that's really astute. Why should business owners build with exit readiness in mind?
Because if you make that the primary goal, then the unintended consequence is you have a business that runs efficiently because it's actually ready. You're ready to exit. So you're going to get the benefit of having this thing that's going to run without you, because essentially to be able to exit, you need to be almost to a place of absentee owner. And so imagine if you did that now and you weren't going to sell the business for 10 years. Awesome. You have all of this time on your that you get to do whatever you want with, because you have a
Right.
business that you could exit. Somebody could walk in tomorrow and write you, say, hey, I want to buy your business. And you're great. Here's the asking price. Get the check and then hand it over to them. And then you're out. That is phenomenal. So imagine
It
if
is.
you're in that place, you're going to have so much time. And so build it now, because when you decide to exit, you've got 5 years to get that all sorted and planned and structured. Your accounting has to be dialed in, your operations and systems have to be perfect. Like, it's a lot of work. And so you don't want to get to the place where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm done with the business. I need to get out of this thing. And then I'm like, oh, now it's five. Now I've put a 5 year timer and here's all the extra work you have to do. Oh, yeah. That's why some people just shut their doors, because they're like, I don't have a family member to give it to. They don't want to take on this mess. I can't
Yeah.
sell it because it's a crazy job. And why would somebody give me $3 million to work 80 hours a week and keep everything, their fingers and hands on everything? No one's going to do that. And so getting to a place where it's ready to transition will give you that freedom and that time that you have. And you'll get the benefit of having a smooth running business for how many ever years before you decide to sell.
I think that's really smart to think about that early on and really build that way. Even if you never want to sell, it certainly gives you options,
Yeah.
but it provides a much smoother process in the business because things are systemized. You have other people that are doing the thing, and you do have that freedom. And I think a lot of founders struggle with that. Of, well, if I turn that over, then what do I do with my time? I'm not useful to the business.
Oh, because
But that's not true at
they're
all.
gonna find the next thing to do. Seriously, like, if you're really not, this is where maybe a little controversial. Sorry, guys, but
Yeah, go ahead, bring it.
though, like one time I started my business and I got it right, and I've been doing fine. Does that make you an entrepreneur? Sure, but an entrepreneur usually has a history of failures and successes behind them, where they've
Sure.
tried multiple things. So I would argue that probably like 80 to 90% of the people that are entrepreneurs, once they get a business that's running and it's running perfectly, if they have a good COO that's keeping them from setting fires, they're going to have other ideas that they want to go try. And so they're going to start their next business. Oh my gosh, how many of us would love to start a new business knowing that our primary business not only is being taken care of, but it's got good cash flow, good distribution, and it's running itself, and so you have this passive revenue stream that's coming to you that then you're starting your next venture, and because you built this really cool engine, you already know what to do for the next business. So I'm going to tell you, your next business, you're probably going to get it running better and faster and more profitable in a shorter order because you've
Yeah.
already done it. So those people out there that are in their business that are like, man, I would love to work on this next thing. I have 6 more ideas. Awesome. Get your one idea straightened out and then start working on the next one. That's I think that's part of the freedom that people are looking for, is being able to live in the fullness of who they are and what they want to do. And if for an entrepreneur, please, gaps in the market and you have solutions, great. Make sure your solutions are holding steady and they're providing for you. Once you've got that done, go work on the next one, please. Like, and keep repeating.
Yeah. And I see that a lot where entrepreneurs do that. And in two ways. One is either they find the next thing that they want to do, and so they start something else alongside, or even within their existing organization, it frees them up to be strategic and think about where should this company go? What are the next things we could do? What are the additional markets we could enter into? What are add-on products or expanding the additional revenue? And so it just really helps you think about that business a lot differently
Yeah.
than you do if you're stuck in the day to
Well,
day.
let me turn it on you if I can for a second. What did you do? Like, what was the where was the time that had that aha moment that your business was running, not without you, because I mean you're here, but where did it get to a place where you're like, wow, this is really cool. This is where I want to keep doing it, but it's not you doing everything. Was there a moment that you remember that?
Yeah, I've done this multiple times,
Okay.
and absolutely, and I've experienced it a couple of different ways. I mean, we had 4 exits, and several of those, it was a clean exit, sell, done, and out. And then one in particular was an exit, and then there was a 3-year commitment on the end of that, and that was a beating that I'll never do it again. And it was specifically because I was too involved in the business, and I was really tied to the revenue, and it took some time to transition out of that.
Yeah.
But I was just too involved in the process, and I didn't have those things in place, and that was a big aha moment of, "I don't wanna do that again."
Yeah.
And so what is it I need to build, and how do I need to build it so that I'm not critical to the infrastructure? The machine still runs whether I'm there pushing the buttons or not.
Yeah. So it's fun. And so you got to that place, and then see, it sounds like you've done it a couple times. So then when you have multiple
Yes.
exits, now all of a sudden you're like, cool. Now you know you can try whatever you want, give it a shot. It's either going to succeed or fail, and then you can move on. Yeah, you're living the life, man. That's awesome.
It's and like I said, COO, it was absolute game changer in that process and really helping things run smoothly, process because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders are much more creative, and we come up with a lot of great ideas,
Yeah.
and we need somebody else to help execute those.
Yeah.
We're not finishers, we're not process people in a lot of cases. And so great ideas never get done because we start 10 things and finish one most of the way.
Yeah. It's like Da Vinci's workshop, right? Like he's got all of these like
Yes.
half starts and half finishes. And yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know if you've read Rocket Fuel, Gino Wickman,
Yeah.
and it's really having those 2 components. And that's absolutely what a COO is, and really filling that role of doing and processes and having the right people in place that make things happen.
Little confession, and I don't know if I've told people, but since I run my own business, I technically am CEO of my own business. It's the thing that I hate most. I have to do it because I have to be CEO. We need a visionary. So that's me. But I love helping other people. I love stepping in and being the number two guy. And like, hey, cool, you've got great vision. Let me help you execute and let me help you build. Just because,
Yeah.
like the vision part, it's not I know I'm a little older. So self reflection, what do I like to do? What makes my heart happy? Trying to come up with ideas and new things. I do it and I can do it, but don't get me wrong. I definitely am an entrepreneur, but I would love to just only focus on helping other people get their visions actualized, realized, built, and growing. Because there's some people with really great ideas that I think, man, you get the right team behind you, you could change the world. You could make life better for people. Please, yes, some of these do need to get off the ground. So
Yeah, so valuable.
that's so cool. That's awesome.
In preparing for an exit, what operational improvements have the biggest impact on a company's valuation?
Demonstrating that the business can run without the founder. And so one of the things that we've put together is a solution set, and I'm not trying to sell anything, but having an operations binder is super helpful. So when you go to sell the business, you can say, hey, by the way, this is how you run the business. Here's This is how the sausage is made. Here's the recipes. Here's how you order things. Here's the supplies. Here's the maintenance. All of the components for the business. If you can hand somebody a binder, I will tell you, any business broker will be so excited to work with you. They will be very happy to sell your business. If you talk to a business valuation expert, first thing they send you is a laundry list of all the documentation that you need for them to even do the valuation. You're going to have probably about 3/4, if not all, in that book when you hand it to them to say, hey, this is how it gets done. And one CPA firm, when we put together a binder like this for one of the practices, they were like, wow, we were able to give you to add a 2x against cash flow as value because this book was done.
That's impressive.
So you want to sell your $1, $5, $10 million business revenue business. Okay, if you want a multiplier, get it to a place where it runs without the founder, and then 2, document how it actually gets done. Now you're not selling a job, you're selling a business that actually generates money.
I think that's the difference is people think they have a business, and they do to some extent or another, but it's a loose collection of processes and stuff that makes some revenue.
Yeah.
Where when you really have it documented and say, here's the systems that make this thing happen. And people are interchangeable. The founder, the CEO is interchangeable because the systems are what runs the business. And that's really what you're selling is the systems and the cash flow that those systems generate.
Yeah. And that's what we need to, and I think this is one of the, not to call people out, so I apologize, but I think this is one of the things that people miss when they start a business is they think it's a way to generate revenue. Not wrong, but it's also you're providing goods and services to people. And so that relationship and that dynamic has value. So what they don't realize is, pardon me, what they don't realize is that business has value. So you think, oh, my owner's draw is 50,000 and my distribution is 100,000, but it's a maybe $500,000 business. Okay, I'm doing good. The reality is that business is worth quite a bit more than that. So if you ever want to test it, get a divorce.
Oh, wow.
They'll
Yeah.
very quickly tell you, by the way, you're sitting on a $3 million business, so you need to give half that value to the person that's walking out the door. Now you need to come up with $1.5 million. And you're like, wait a second, I'm only drawing like $70,000 off this thing. Where am I going to get one point?
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The business itself has value that it's accumulating over time. And that's where creating those processes, coming up with those documentation, those relationships you're building, all of that work that's you're not being paid for, it's stacking up that value. And all those little bricks that are your business that are stacking up, it's all creating value. And you need to treat it as such. And so I think this is where you go from maybe a freelancer to tech startup, kind of, we're just throwing ideas and doing wacky things. Okay, but then at a point, it starts making money, starts building teams, starts having HR processes, documented process, all of that stuff, that's accumulating value. And you need to be mindful of how you're mining that and how you're preserving it and how you're putting that together, because there might be a point where you want to grow and expand quickly. You're going to need revenue and you're going to need cash. You can't do it by just selling more. You need
Right.
an infusion. So if you look at investors, going to be like, great, show us how this runs. And then they're going to see this system and all these little bricks and all these little things that you put together. And all of a sudden you're going to get a valuation that was bigger than you thought. And they're going to want to finance because they know that there's value in that business that they can finance. If something goes wrong, they can cash all this thing out and pay everybody off. And people are like, whoa, I didn't realize that. I'm standing on a mountain I didn't even realize was being built over time. So I just
Yeah.
I just want people to be a little bit mindful of that. Is if you've been in business for 3 to 5 years, you need someone that's being mindful of what that little hill or that mountain that you're building underneath you and how to cultivate that and take care of that in the right way.
Technology is transforming all parts of businesses, including operations.
Yeah.
How is AI and automation changing operations over the last few years and even this year, the last 6 months, maybe?
Yeah. Let me ask GPT that. Hold on one second. Just kidding. um, so I think the key to operations is documenting and then a repeatable process that helps with flow. And so technology is great for that. Give you a very simple example. Trying to book a time to meet with somebody.
Sure.
The old way, you're emailing back. Okay, yeah, I won't go that far back. So the old way, you email people and you're emailing back and forth. And I actually have a whole workflow that shows what the workflow looks like for that. And so you look at delays, like people reading the emails, following up. No, I can't meet with you. Let me send you some other time. That whole thing back and forth. That can be 17 hours over 3-4 days if you really calculate the time on it. So an app like Calendly, which will automatically look at your calendar, it will present people with time slots that you can meet based on specifications. It integrates with Zoom, right? So it'll automatically set up Zoom meetings. All of a sudden, you took something that took multiple days and all these hours, right, back and forth. It gets it down to 14 minutes or 17 minutes, I think is what I calculated. When somebody opens it up, picks a time, then all the mechanisms happen, and then it's on your calendar. So there's an example of technology like helping in a really great way. With AI, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's taking over everyone's job. It can't look at this whole complexity system, understand priorities, human emotion. It's not there yet,
Right.
but it can look at things objectively. So if we're saying, hey, listen, we have this is the process for onboarding a client. We do this. What am I missing? Throw that into GPT or whatever your program is. It'll come back to you and say, oh, did you think about this and this?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I think it's great for that, but it's also going to be basing it off of all the information it has. So for you, it's going to be like Fortune 500 companies. This is what they do for their social media posts, and here's the 20 departments it goes through, and here's all the approvals. If you're a small business, you don't need an over-engineered process. So trying to find the balance in that. I think humans are still going to be in operations for quite a while, but
Sure.
I think leveraging the technology of, hey, we need to standardize our SOPs. Here's how Joe wrote the process. Here's how Mary wrote the process. Here's how Bill wrote the process. Here's the format we have. Can you please take these, format them the right way? Now, all of a sudden, your output is all the same. And then you can also have it evaluate to say, hey, Bob, Mary, and Joe, like, were they missing steps? Oh, they were. Great. Let's go get those and fill that out. And now you have standard operating procedures that are basically foundationally the same because you now are using technology to help diagnose and test that. And
Yeah.
full disclosure, I use technology as much as I can because it's not replacing me or it's not replacing a team member, but it's giving us the ability to 5x, 10x our output
Absolutely.
because we're able to, instead of manually having to think through this and manually looking through all your documents, we can use technology to help process way more information and get us some clear outputs and check for irregularities that once we determine what the standard is of what we want, it'll look for any variations and then catch those and let us know.
Oh, it's really smart. You said one thing that I've seen a bunch of times of just processes that are over-engineering
Oh
processes,
yeah.
where somebody will take a process because it works for some other company or somebody makes some playbook available and they're like, we're going to make this our own. And so they take it and plug it into their business, and it creates more problems than it solves because it slows down their business because it's just not the right process for them.
Yeah, that is one of the challenges when people they start the journey of, hey, I want to document this. They'll go grab a template, or they'll, I don't know, LinkedIn, everybody's sharing, here's how we built a $50 million business in 2 days. And here's a
Right.
template and just download it. Okay. The reality with that is, one, and this is an operations like 101 level thing. When you go in to fix something, once you fix a bottleneck, because of the way the things flow, you're going to fix a bottleneck here. It's 100% of the time, it's going to create a problem somewhere else. So
Yep.
let's say you fix the sales cycle, right? And you get it from, let's say, 180 days to 90 days. Great. Guess who now is feeling the pain? Fulfillment.
Probably implementation,
Yeah,
client
exactly.
success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then you have to be mindful of those trade-offs, and then you have to be able to forecast and understand, okay, we're going to fix this, and then the positiveness, right? It's going to be this outcome, but it's going to create a possible, but then we have a capacity problem over here. And so you need to be able to identify it. When you're doing that kind of in a holistic way, when we step in and we start doing this, I'm always watching downstream and upstream, and I'm trying to keep a visual both ways. But when you introduce this new system, and it's like throwing a portion to a VW Beetle, you can do that, but then all of a sudden, are your brakes going to work the right way? Is your steering going to work?
Right.
Like all of the other stuff that has to support that, it's going to create a problem. So, one, drag and drop systems and processes. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like the idea of putting a jet engine on your car, but just think through it before you strap that bad boy on and light it up. So one, two, as far as like over engineering your processes, yeah, you don't. I have a nice office space. I've got a back door and I've got trash and I have all these things I have to worry about. But writing a 20 step on like how to close the back door for my office, like that's a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Close the door, check. Office, when you leave the office, throw the trash out, lock the back door, check. That's enough that anyone that works here, they can follow that checklist and they've got it. Things like how to take care of your customer onboarding, yeah, that stuff you definitely want to make sure that you've got a nice detailed list and that you're very mindful of it. I would say some guidelines I could throw out there real quick. Think of the 80-20 rule. So 20% of what you're doing is going to impact 80% of your business. So you want to make
Yep.
sure those 20% are really well documented and you understand what the structure is around that. The other thing is that not everything is important, right? So I love to think that everything's important, but it's not. There's certain priorities that you have. And so having a prioritization kind of schedule of what you need to actually have documented, I would build that list first. So think through, I just did this with another client. It's a meat processing plant, and they have some processes that are like really simple. But what we don't realize is if that process fails, the plant shuts down.
Yeah.
The plant shuts down. It doesn't matter that we had SOPs for everything else, or it doesn't matter, right? We have all these other systems. It got shut down because somebody forgot to double check a latch.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking through your list, 2080 is one. Two, what can shut this thing down? And then make sure that those are safeguarded and protected. And I would say, and we're doing this right now with this meat processor, we're over engineering a little bit of these things that could shut the company down because somebody skips a step that ruins the business, that can ruin the business. So then let's take it. You're going to take a picture. You're going to do a checklist. You're going to take a picture. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Over engineer the hell out of it because we created this big safety net around it that if they forget one or two steps, they still are doing everything else. And so hopefully we'll protect it. And then as we get more comfortable with the business, we can start cutting those layers. But there are places where you do need to over engineer just a little bit to keep that safe and keep that protected. But juggling that balance, that's a tricky thing to do.
But that makes a lot of sense, and I like the way of looking at it that way, is just what are the things that really are critical? If you think just a practical example, Coca-Cola. If you're making Coke and, you have a specific recipe, that matters
Right.
because the product is not the same
Yeah.
if it's not exactly right. And you can't just it's close. Yep, we put some stuff in there and maybe it's different, maybe it's not.
It's like
That's how it
it's
matters.
like when you go to a restaurant and we had the breakfast place that we absolutely loved. And we had to figure out what day of the week we needed to go because that was the chef that we liked that made our breakfast the
Yeah,
way that we liked it. Why do you have to do that? It should be consistent every
exactly.
time. But you're right. Yeah. See?
Yeah, it should be consistent every
Yeah.
time. And thinking about that in your business, what really matters in the consistency? And customer onboarding would certainly be one of those
Oh yeah.
where you want it to be great, a great experience every time, not hit or miss. It depends on who you get. Yeah, that's not a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's and we all have team members too that there's times when you're like, oh man, I really hope, Joe's working on this because when I get work from Joe, like
Yes.
Joe takes care of us, but man, whenever Barry does the work, oh, it's a cluster.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't have that. It should be consistent. And yeah, I guess one more thing I throw out there is think of quality as early as possible. So if you push quality at the very beginning, and then it's easier for you to detect when things fall apart. And so if you do have different team members or a lot of variance in how things are getting done, that's a great sign that there's a quality issue. And so there's a place for you to go fix. Sorry, you just
Yeah.
inspired me with that thought. So
That's good. So if you were scaling a SaaS company today, knowing everything, how would you set up operations, scaling, say, 1 to 10 million today?
yeah. It's already running, right? And then, or we're starting from zero.
Let's say we're starting at 1.
Oh,
So we're scaling 1 to 10.
okay, got it.
We hit 1 and now we want to set up operations in a great way.
Yeah. So one, I would set the goal for 10 and I would plan for 5 as a mile marker because having a $10 million business is definitely different than having a $5 million business or $1 million business. And I don't know if you're up for it. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of stress, a lot of responsibility. So what I would do is keep the 10 in mind, use the 5 as a check-in, as a mile marker, and then I would start organizing your departments in such a way that specific tasks are handled by very specific departments. So anything marketing just does marketing, sales just does sales, customer service just does customer service, and then I'd have IT. I would have two IT kind of veins: customer facing IT support, and then back end IT support. And then if you want to throw R&D as an ad hoc team between those two, that's fine. But modularize and compartmentalize as much as you can, and then have kind of what that flow looks like for those departments and build and structure it that way. I did work for a SaaS company that was stuck at 2.5 mil, and the owner was the coder and the developer and the senior analyst and everything, had 6 million hats. And
Right.
so whenever he stepped into a meeting, everybody was like, "Oh, the CEO's here," and no, the role he was playing was senior developer, but they didn't know that. So we had to
Right.
set up like these are different type. These are the different departments we have. These are the different staff that live under that, and then here's the roles that they play. And so the CEO then, when he stepped into that meeting, he was like, "I now am playing the role of CEO." He had to physically say the IT lead had to tell him, "Hey, boss, you're now the senior developer," and he would say, "I acknowledge that I'm playing the role of a senior developer." And so he put himself in that department. So I would very intentionally set up departments, set up processes and accountabilities for that, and structure it that way. And it's a little challenge when you have 5 people on a team or 7 people on a team to think that way. But if you start practicing that and building that discipline, I think that's going to help you because then you can start adding more people. So when you add a customer service person on board, you're like, great, here's how this department runs, here's what your role is, load them up. And so you can start throwing people into different parts of the machine and they know exactly what their lane is and exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
I like that. That's really good advice. Where can people learn more about you online?
So you can take a look at my website, thinkadaptbuild.com, or you can check me out on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. And I'll send you some links on your show notes. So if you want to put that in there, they can
Excellent.
find me there. And I have a little giveaway. So normally I do a 30-minute free session, just whatever you want to talk about. I'll up that to an hour. And then I have a little download guide that you can use to take a look at your operations and do a quick little diagnosis on how you're doing.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that is linked in the show notes and thinkadaptbuild.com. I love that. That's a great domain.
Oh, thanks. You have a good idea and you're like, do it. And then you're like, oh, wait, that actually was a good idea, like 6 months later. So thank you for that.
Very good. Josh, thank you for being on SaaS Fuel. It's absolutely valuable.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time.
Thanks again, Josh, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Joshua and his business, Think, Adapt, Build, at thinkadaptbuild.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube. Lots of resources over there, including full video episodes of the podcast. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who loves the intersection of business and big ideas, because those are the kind of people that listen to this show. Everyone who shares this week gets a custom forged sword of truth, enchanted by a wizard who only speaks in business metaphors. Use it wisely in your next investor meeting and make them tell you the truth. Why do they like your business or why do they not? Some days I'm not sure I want the truth all the time. What if paperwork wasn't a necessary evil, but a problem you could eliminate entirely? Sound good? Well, Richard Walker, CEO of Quick and host of the Customer Wins podcast, joins us next to share how he turned a mountain of manual forms into a thriving SaaS company that powers millions of seamless transactions. Yes, please. Great story, too. Then, on next Thursday, 1 week from today, how do you go from overcoming physical challenges to becoming a Division I athlete and global keynote speaker? Roger Crawford has done just that. Named by Sports Illustrated as one of the most accomplished physically challenged athletes in the world, and honestly, one of the most inspiring athletes I've ever met. And Roger now inspires organizations worldwide to conquer excuses and crush limitations. Fantastic conversation. You're going to love it. Roger Crawford, 1 week from today. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.